The stainless steel tray hit the marble floor before Mara Ellis understood she had been hurt. It rang once, sharp and bright, across the private hospital hallway. Soup spread under her elbow. Crystal glasses from the donor reception shattered somewhere behind her. Under her body, Nico Vitali was breathing hard into the collar of her uniform, his small fists locked in the fabric like she was the only solid thing left in the world. Mara kept one hand over the back of his head. "Do not move," she whispered, though she could barely hear herself through the alarms. "You are safe. Stay small." Black Shoe stopped beside her. Not running, not stumbling, stopping like the entire world had been ordered to freeze. Raphael Vitali dropped to his knees. Everyone at St. Aurelia Children's Hospital knew that name. Donor, widower, Italian-American king of half the city after midnight. A man who never asked for help because he had spent his whole life making other people beg for his. Now his hand hovered over Mara's shoulder, shaking once. "Please," he said to the trauma doctor. The word broke the hallway worse than the gunshot had. "Save my wife." The last thing Mara saw before the lights folded inward was Raphael Vitali taking off the heavy black ring from his right hand and pressing it into her palm as if a ring could hold a soul inside a body. She wanted to tell him she was not his wife. She wanted to tell him the boy was still crying. But Nico's voice came from very far away, thin and ruined. "Papa," she brought me back. Then the hospital swallowed her whole. 12 hours earlier, Mara Ellis had been loading dinner carts in the underground cafeteria and trying not to think about the bill in her pocket. St. Aurelia Children's Hospital looked like a palace from the street. White stone, silver letters, a fountain that ran even in winter because donors liked moving water. Downstairs, where Mara worked double shifts, it was steam, sanitizer, rubber mats, and women pushing meals through corridors no camera ever found. Tonight, the private pediatric wing was hosting a foundation tour. That meant white flowers upstairs, new earpieces for security, and a meal schedule torn apart for people who wore sympathy like perfume. Mara clipped the route sheet to her cart. Pediatric oncology, cardiac step-down, donor lounge, tasting trays. One special order, plain buttered pasta, no parsley, no pepper, no green things, delivered to room 812 under Ann Vitali. Nico Vitali, 6 years old, son of Raphael Vitali, the donor whose name opened rooms and closed mouths. The hospital whispered about him all week. A widower, an Italian-American boss behind every polite foundation plaque, a man who never asked for help because he could by obedience. Mara cared less about the father than the child. Nico had asked her yesterday whether ambulances got tired. She had told him only when nobody said thank you. Before she left, he had whispered thank you to the battered toy ambulance tucked beside his blanket. The service elevator opened. 2 men in black suits entered first. Then Matteo, Rinaldi, silver at the temples, eyes on every exit. Behind him walked Raphael Vitali. He was 38, tall, dark-haired, severe in a black suit and white shirt. He did not look around the cafeteria as if he had entered a kitchen. He looked around as if deciding whether it deserved to keep existing. The room went quiet. His gaze stopped on Mara's cart. "That is my son's dinner." "Yes." "Why is it still here?" Mara had spent the morning at a clinic with her 17-year-old brother Caleb, while a technician explained the cost of a glucose monitor like numbers were neutral things. She was too tired to be spoken to like furniture. "Because hot pasta leaves with the hot meal cart at 6:20, she said. "It is 6:18. One guard shifted. Matteo's mouth almost smiled. Raphael studied her name tag. "Mara Ellis." "That is me. My son eats at 6. "Your son has eaten at 6:20 for 3 nights. He finished every bite. If I send it now, it turns to paste under a heat lamp. Children with hard weeks should not be punished with paste." Raphael walked to the other side of the cart. Between them, stainless steel shelves held soup cups, covered plates, allergy stickers, and trays bright under fluorescent light. "Do you always correct men you do not know?" "Only when they are wrong in front of food." For a second, something moved in his face. Not warmth. Recognition, maybe. "Nico does not eat green things," he said. "I know. He dislikes people watching him. I know. He sleeps with a toy ambulance and pretends he does not." Mara's voice softened. I know. His eyes narrowed. He spoke first, she said. I answer because he is 6. That landed somewhere under Raphael's armor. He looked back at the route sheet. His face changed by almost nothing, which somehow made it worse. Mateo. Mara turned the paper so they could see. Nico's food usually goes through the North Service elevator, direct to the family hall. This says East Family Corridor, through donor staging. Photographers, volunteers, board members, florists, and people with clipboards pretending clipboards are clearance. Mateo took the paper. The meal label came down late, Mara added, and it had a folded yellow allergy strip, even though Nico has no listed food allergy. Real kitchen strips print with a corner notch. This one was torn from a sample sheet. Raphael's voice dropped. Who changed it? I print what the system gives me. But men who give orders do not always hear small corrections. This time Mateo did smile at the floor. Raphael looked at her for one long moment. You will bring the meal yourself. I already was. My men will escort you. Then tell them not to crowd the cart. Children notice when adults turn dinner into a funeral march. You have opinions on everything, mostly on things that matter. Mara expected anger. Raphael Vitali had built a life out of being obeyed, and she had just sanded the edge off his command in front of witnesses. Instead, he said 6:20. Then he left. Frankie from sanitation stared after him, then at Mara. You know who that was? Mara pushed the cart toward the elevator. A father whose kid wants pasta, but her hands tightened around the handle. Raphael Vitali had not scared her most when he made the cafeteria silent. He had scared her most when he said his son's name. There had been love in it, buried under granite and rules, but alive. The private pediatric wing had been dressed for donors. White flowers stood in glass cylinders at the nurses' station. A string quartet played near the family lounge, soft enough to be expensive. Foundation volunteers moved around in cream jackets, smiling at each other with the delicate terror of people who had been told important guests were coming. Mara moved the meal cart through it all with her eyes down and her ears open. The security pattern was wrong. She did not know crime. She knew hospitals. She knew that when a floor was truly controlled, the normal rhythm did not vanish. Nurses still complained. Respiratory therapists still argued about tubing. Parents still asked for ice. Tonight, the rhythm had gaps in it. Too many people in the East Corridor, not enough staff at the North Service doors. A volunteer she did not recognize stood near a medication alcove with a visitor badge clipped too low. A man in gray scrubs walked past carrying no chart, no gloves, no tiredness. Mara slowed the cart. Nico Vitali sat on a bench outside room 812, small in a navy cardigan, his dark hair combed too neatly. His toy ambulance rested beside him, battered white plastic with one red door missing. 2 guards stood at the end of the hall. Mateo spoke quietly into his phone. Raphael was 20 feet away with hospital trustees, his body angled toward his son, even while his eyes gave nothing to the room. Nico saw the cart first. His face changed, not into a smile exactly, more like a window warming. Pasta? He asked. Mara parked the cart near the bench. Pasta. Extra butter. No green ambush. Nico looked at the covered bowl. Green ambush is bad. Very bad. Raphael's attention cut toward them. Nico immediately sat straighter, his expression closing. Mara pretended not to notice. She unfolded the tray table attached to the wall, set down the bowl, a napkin, water, a small cup of applesauce, and one extra roll she had no official permission to provide. For the ambulance, she said. Nico touched the roll. Ambulances do not eat. They get tired anyway. He considered this seriously. Mara felt Raphael watching. She did not look at him. She adjusted the spoon so it sat on Nico's left side, because yesterday he had reached with that hand first. The man in gray scrubs passed again. This time Mara saw the shoes. Hospital staff wore whatever kept them alive through 12 hours of floors. Sneakers, clogs, ugly orthopedic miracles. The man wore polished black dress shoes under scrub pants. The cuffs were a shade too long. Costume, then, not uniform. He moved toward Nico with a paper cup in one hand. Mara's fingers tightened around the tray. Mateo was turned away. Raphael was boxed in by trustees and a photographer. The guards at the hall inn were distracted by a donor couple asking for the elevators. The man smiled down at Nico. Your father said to bring this. Nico froze. Mara stepped between them, tray against her hip. No outside drinks on a restricted pediatric floor, she said. The man's eyes flicked to her name tag. It is only water. Then he can get it from the sealed bottle on his tray. The man's smile thinned. Something metal showed under the folded cloth in his other hand. Mara did not think. Thinking was too slow. She knew carts, routes, heat, weight. She knew a stainless steel tray could block a spill, a thrown cup, a child's sudden sickness. She knew Nico's shoulders were narrow under her arm. She knew the man was too close. She swung the tray up as the first shot cracked through the hall. Sound vanished. The tray bucked against her hands. Nico made a small broken noise. Mara shoved him down behind the cart and threw herself over him. Another impact slammed through her side with heat so intense it felt white. People screamed. The string quartet stopped in a shriek of strings. Mara's cheek hit marble. She kept Nico under her. Stay small, she whispered. Stay small, sweetheart. The world exploded into motion. Matteo roared. Raphael moved faster than any man in a suit should move. The attacker hit the floor under 3 bodies. The paper cup rolled, spilling clear liquid across white stone. Mara smelled soup. Her soup. The cart had tipped sideways, the insulated canister dented, the pasta bowl broken open across the floor. Nico's small hand crawled up to her collar. Miss Mara, here. I dropped ambulance. That is okay. Papa will be angry. Not at you. She hoped that was true. Then Raphael was there, kneeling in a mess like he did not own a dozen buildings where men scrubbed blood from carpets and never mentioned it. His face had emptied, not because he felt nothing, because he felt too much. Nico, he said. The boy reached for him with one hand, but did not release Mara with the other. She made me small. Raphael looked at Mara then. His eyes moved over her uniform, the tray, the way her hands still covered the back of his son's head. He understood the price before she did. Medical team, Matteo shouted. A trauma doctor dropped beside them. Nurses came running. Hands pressed, voices counted, scissors cut fabric. Name? The doctor demanded. Mara Ellis, Raphael said before she could answer. Relationship? The question sliced through the panic. The doctor needed clearance, decisions, consent, payment, protection from a storm, now breaking around the most dangerous donor in the city. Mara saw the calculation flash across faces. Cafeteria worker. No family present. No power. Raphael saw it too. His jaw tightened. For the first time since she had met him, he looked unable to order the world into shape fast enough. Mara tried to speak. My brother. Raphael bent closer. What? Caleb. Diabetes. Clinic card in my locker. She sucked in a breath that tore. Do not let him miss the monitor fitting. He will not. Promise. I promise. The doctor pushed Raphael back. Sir, we need to move. His hand hovered over Mara's shoulder. And then the man who never asked for help broke in front of everyone. Please, Raphael said. Save my wife. Mara would remember the word please later more clearly than the pain. Not because it was soft, because in his mouth it sounded like surrender. Mara woke to machines. She hated machines. Not all machines. Insulin pumps were miracles. Monitors were useful. Cafeteria dishwashers, when they worked, deserved songs. But hospital machines around a bed meant someone had turned your body into a problem other people were solving without asking you. Her eyes opened to a ceiling too white to be normal. Pain waited for her like a creditor. She made a sound she did not recognize. A chair scraped. Do not move. Raphael Vitali's voice. Of course. Mara turned her head with effort. He sat beside the bed in a black shirt with the sleeves rolled to his forearms. His jacket was gone. His hair looked as if he had run both hands through it and lost the argument. There was a small bruise along his cheekbone. He looked less like a donor now and more like a man who had sat too long beside a door waiting to be punished. Where is Nico? Safe. That is not a location. In the family suite 2 doors down with Matteo, 3 nurses, and his toy ambulance. He saw. Raphael's mouth tightened. Enough. Mara closed her eyes. She saw the hallway again. The shoes. The cup. The tray flashing up. Nico's body under hers. The man in scrubs. Dead. Her eyes opened. Raphael did not apologize for the word. Men like him did not soften facts. But he watched her carefully, as if facts might cut her differently now. Who was he? A contractor from the Calder Syndicate. That sounds like the sort of thing I should not know. You should know everything that touched you. Mara, let that sit. Why am I in a private suite? Because you needed surgery. Why are you here? Because you are alive. That is not an answer. It is the only one I have had for 14 hours. The silence that followed was not comfortable. It had too many machines in it. Mara tried to lift her hand and felt weight around her finger. Raphael leaned forward at once, but he did not touch her. She looked down. A black ring, too large, had been wrapped with white medical tape so it would not slide off her finger. Memory returned in shards. Please, save my wife. Take off. Raphael went still. Mara's voice was rough. I'm not your wife. No. Then take it off. If I do that before the hospital staff believe you are under my family protection, every person who wants leverage against me will ask whether the woman who saved my son can be reached. I am not leverage. I know. You do not get to make me into property because I bled on your floor. Something dark crossed his face. You bled on my son. I protected him. Yes. Then say that. Do not bury me under your name. Raphael rose from the chair, paced once to the window, then turned back. Outside the glass, morning had made the city pale. He looked too large for the room, too contained for the fear he was trying to hide. My name is a wall, he said. I put around what matters. Walls keep people in too. Not if I build doors. Do you know how? He did not answer quickly. That was the first honest thing he did. Mara swallowed against a dry throat. Where is my brother? Caleb is in the endocrine clinic downstairs with Dr. Feld. His monitor fitting is finished. The device, sensors, and backup supplies are paid for 1 year in advance. He ate breakfast. Badly, according to Mateo. Relief hit so hard her eyes burned. She turned her face away. Raphael's voice changed. Mara, do not. Do not what? Do not use the voice. What voice? The one that sounds like you can afford my gratitude. He absorbed that as if she had struck him, and maybe she had. I owed your brother that care. You owed him nothing. I made you a promise while you were dying. Mara looked back. Do not say dying like you own that too. He came closer, slowly this time, stopping beside the bed but not touching the rail. Tell me the rule, he said. What? You are angry because I made decisions while you could not speak. Some of them saved your life. Some of them may have stolen from you. Tell me the rule. Mara stared at him. Nobody in her life asked like that. They defended, explained, paid, disappeared. They did not stand beside a hospital bed asking for the shape of the boundary. No line to Nico, she said. Raphael's brow moved. What? If he asks whether I am your wife, you do not make him carry your story. Children know when adults build rooms out of lies. He is 6. Exactly. What else? You do not call me wife in private unless I agree. In public, if your name is the wall, keeping your enemies away, use it when you must. But do not look at me like I have been purchased. His eyes dropped to the taped ring. You have not. And Caleb is not a debt marker. No. Say it. Your brother is not a debt marker. If you help him, it is because he is a kid who needed help, not because I am useful. Yes. Mara searched his face for mockery. There was none, only exhaustion, restraint, and something bruised by her refusal to be grateful in the way powerful men liked. Last rule, she said. Raphael waited. If Nico comes here, you do not tell him to be strong. The room changed. Raphael's face closed in an instant. Mara had seen that expression upstairs when trustees drifted too close to private things. He needs to be strong. He needs to be 6. He is my son. He is not your heir before he is your son. The words landed hard enough that one of the monitors seemed louder after them. For a second, Mara thought he would walk out, order her transferred, put the wall back without doors. Instead, his hand closed around the back of the chair. You think I do not know that? I think you know it when he is asleep. Raphael looked toward the door as if he could see the boy through it. When he spoke again, his voice was almost too low to hear. His mother died in a car I owned. He asked me if I checked the tires. He asked me if I checked the road. He asked me if I will check every room before he enters it. I tell him he is strong, because if I stop speaking, I may tell him I am terrified too. Mara's anger faltered, not gone, but forced to make room for grief. Then tell him that's smaller. What does that mean? Tell him he gets scared. Not all of it. Not the adult storm. Just enough that he does not feel alone in his. Raphael looked at her for a long time. You were shot protecting my child, he said, and you're teaching me how to speak to him. Someone should. The corner of his mouth moved, not quite a smile. A knock came before he could answer. Nico stood in the doorway with Matteo behind him. The boy wore dinosaur pajamas under a cardigan. His hair stuck up on one side. The toy ambulance was clutched under his arm. He looked at the machines, then at Mara's face, then at the taped black ring on her finger. Are you dead? He asked. Raphael made a pained sound. Mara answered before he could correct the child. No, I am very annoyed, which means alive. Nico took one step in. Papa said you were sleeping. I was. Machines are rude. He came closer, eyes huge. Did I make you hurt? The question opened something sharp in the room. Raphael took a step, but Mara lifted 2 fingers. Stop. He stopped. No, Mara said, a bad man made a bad choice. I made my own choice. You did exactly what I told you. You stayed small. Nico's mouth trembled. I dropped ambulance. Ambulances are built for crashes. He held it out. He can stay with you. He brings people back. Mara looked at Raphael. The man who commanded half the dark corners of the city looked helpless before a 6-year-old offering a broken toy. Only if he has visiting hours, Mara said. Nico nodded seriously and put the ambulance beside her pillow. Then he looked at the ring. Are you married to Papa? There it was. The first door in the wall. Raphael's shoulders tightened. Mara kept her eyes on Nico. Your papa said that in the hallway, so the doctors and everyone else would know I was protected. It was a big grown-up word for she belongs in the safe room. Nico thought this over. But are you protected? Apparently. No. Wife. Mara did not smile, though she wanted to. Not in the way people mean when they choose forever. Nico looked at Raphael. Did you choose forever? Raphael stared at his son. For once, he had no order ready. I chose to keep her alive, he said. Nico frowned. That is not forever. Mara coughed and regretted it instantly. Raphael's eyes flashed to her in alarm. She waved him off. Nico patted the ambulance. He says you can borrow forever until you get your own. Generous, Mara whispered. Matteo, from the doorway, appeared to be studying the ceiling with great dedication. Raphael moved Mara out of the hospital 4 days later, and because he did not ask first, she refused first. The attacker was dead, but the person who had dressed him in hospital scrubs was not. Someone inside the Foundation system had rerouted Nico's meal, delayed it with a false allergy strip, and opened a soft corridor around child. My estate has a medical wing, Raphael said. Vetted staff. Controlled entry. Space for Caleb if he visits. Space for you to heal. Your estate is your world, Mara said. If I enter it, does the door lock behind me? No. Say that like a promise, not a design flaw. He looked as if he would rather negotiate with 10 armed men than 1 injured cafeteria worker. If you come to my home, you may leave when your doctors clear the move and when you choose to leave. I will not keep you there by force, debt, guilt, or fear. Better, I want my own room, no guard inside it, and no black ring taped to my finger while I sleep. Instead of arguing, Raphael held out his palm. Mara slid the ring off and placed it in his hand. In public, he said, I may still need the wall. Then ask before you build it around me. Will you wear it at the rehabilitation center opening next month if the threat is still active? Will you? If. Not an order. Mara studied him. Maybe. That is not an answer. It is the answer you earned. The Vitali estate sat north of the city behind iron gates, old trees, and a private road long enough for second thoughts. Its medical wing had wide windows, a small therapy room, and a sitting room where Nico had arranged 3 welcome gifts. His toy ambulance, a stack of coloring pages, and 1 chocolate pudding cup. Emergency pudding, he explained. Then I accept treatment, Mara said. Nico climbed onto the far end of the couch, careful not to crowd her. Raphael stood in the doorway, arms folded, and the boy immediately sat straighter. Too straight. Too careful. Mara nodded toward the kitchenette. Raphael, could you give me water? The room went still. In this house, requests usually flowed from him, never toward him. He looked at Nico, then got the water. Thank you, Mara said. Nico blinked. Papa can get water? Raphael sat across from him. Apparently. Can I ask too? Raphael's throat moved. Yes. Nico patted the cushion beside him. Can you sit here? Raphael crossed the room and sat. Nico leaned into him quickly, as if permission might expire. This time Raphael's arm came around his son without an order attached. Recovery was not romantic. Payne did not care that Mara had saved a child. Physical therapy was slow, humiliating work measured in steps, breaths, stitches, and a number of times she could stand without cursing loudly enough to alarm Nico. Raphael came every morning at 7 with reports and the expression of a man prepared to supervise healing into obedience. Mara rejected the first stack before he explained it. By the 4th day, he had learned to knock. By the 6th, he had learned not to answer questions meant for Mara. By the 8th, he had learned that "Are you in pain?" sounded better than "Tell me the number." Mara learned too. Raphael drank espresso like punishment, called Nico "Figlio mio" when he forgot to be hard, and looked faintly panicked when his son asked for a bedtime story. The first nightmare came during a rainstorm. Mara woke to a child, trying not to scream. She made it to the doorway with a walker and found Nico on the hall floor, knees to his chest, toy ambulance clutched in both hands. Raphael crouched in front of him, rigid with helplessness. Nico, he said, breathe. You are safe. Look at me. Orders. Gentle ones, but still orders. Mara leaned against the doorframe. Stop commanding air. Raphael looked up, shaken. Bring the loose call bell from therapy, Mara told the nurse. Then she lowered herself to the floor, several feet from Nico. Ambulance check, sweetheart. His eyes flicked to her. This bell calls the team, she said, placing it between them. You do not have to talk. You can press. For several seconds, only rain moved. Then Nico reached out and pressed a button. The bell chimed. Good. Team knows. Now ambulance breathing. In for the wheels. Out for the doors. Nico copied her. The nurse copied her. Matteo, at the far end of the hall, copied her with great discomfort. Raphael did not move. Mara looked at him. Ask if you can sit beside him. He knows I can. That is not the same. Pride and terror fought across Raphael's face. Then he lowered his voice. Nico, may I sit beside you? The boy nodded. Raphael sat on the floor and waited. A minute later, Nico leaned into him because space had been offered, not taken. When the child slept again, Raphael found Mara in the kitchenette trying to make tea with one functioning arm. You should have called the nurse. I called the team. He took the kettle from her. His hands were shaking. He pressed the bell. Raphael said. He asked for help. Children do that when help does not arrive like a command. Raphael looked more tired than dangerous. I did not know how to raise a gentle child in my world. Then raise a child who knows gentleness is not weakness. His gaze held hers. And you. Mara should have said she was only tired. Instead, she let the silence answer first. Raphael reached out slowly enough for refusal and brushed one loose strand of hair away from her cheek. It was barely a touch. It rearranged the room. I know I want to keep you where I can see you breathing, he said, and I know that is not the same as loving you well. Mara's throat tightened. Then keep learning, she said. Is that permission? It is homework. The first real clue came from Soup. Mara was not supposed to be involved in the investigation. Raphael made that clear every time Matteo came into the medical wing with a tablet and lowered his voice. Mara made clear she had ears. The internal review found the altered route sheet, the false allergy strip, and a fake volunteer badge. It found that the attacker had entered through a service dock behind a flower delivery. It found 2 deleted access logs and 1 missing uniform. It did not find who had authorized the change. Because they are looking at doors, Mara said from the couch one afternoon. Mateo stopped talking. Raphael closed the folder he had been reading. You are resting. My side is resting. My brain is bored. Your brain nearly got you killed. My brain noticed the shoes. Mateo made a small sound of agreement before Raphael's glare silenced him. Mara held out her hand. Show me the route sheet. No. Then continue being wrong in private. You are impossible. Yes. The route sheet. Raphael stared at her for several seconds, then handed it over. Mara examined the scan. Same paper. Same incorrect East Corridor routing. Same yellow allergy marker attached to Nico's pasta. She looked at the meal list, the delivery times, the initials beside the labels. This was not changed by kitchen staff. Mateo leaned in. How do you know? Because nobody in kitchen uses these abbreviations. We write GF for gluten-free. This says G-free. That is donor language. Menu language. Someone who reads the polished version, not the working one. Raphael's eyes sharpened. Mara pointed to the soup canister line. Also this. Tomato basil, Mateo read. We did not serve tomato basil that night. We served roasted red pepper. Foundation tasting menu had tomato basil upstairs because board members think basil is charity. Raphael's mouth twitched despite himself. So whoever altered this had access to the donor tasting menu, Mara said, not the kitchen production sheet. Mateo took notes. Board foundation office, event planning. And the yellow allergy strip was folded, not printed. Kitchen strips print with the corner notch. This was torn from a sample sheet. Raphael watched her with a look she was beginning to recognize. It was not surprise anymore. It was hunger for the world as she saw it. What else? He asked. She looked at him. The question warmed something small and traitorous inside her. Not tell me. What else? The fake runner's shoes were polished black, she said. Not staff shoes. But one person in the hallway had the same shine on the floor before he walked in. Mateo's head lifted. Who? Mara closed her eyes, rebuilding the hallway. White flowers. String quartet. Donor couple. Volunteer jackets. Nico on bench. Raphael with trustees. Mateo at phone. Gray scrubs. Paper cup. And a man laughing softly near the family lounge, one hand on the back of a chair, shoes shining under tailored trousers. Vincent Sarto, she said. Mateo went still. Raphael did not move at all. Vincent Sarto was on the foundation board. Publicly, a developer. Privately, according to whispers, a man who bought pieces of other men's problems and sold them back at profit. He had stood beside Raphael at 2 hospital press events, smiling like a brother. You are certain? Raphael asked. No, Mara said. I'm injured, medicated, and annoyed. But he was the only board member I saw near the service alcove before the runner appeared. And his visitor wristband was blue. Mateo frowned. Board members had gold wristbands. Exactly. Why would that matter? Blue wristbands were family suite temporary access. They let you pass the East Corridor doors without a staff escort. Raphael's face became very calm. Mara knew by then that his calm was where the worst things lived. Raphael, she said. His eyes returned to her. You cannot solve this by making a body disappear. Mateo stared at a very interesting corner. Raphael said nothing. Nico does not need another secret hallway, Mara said. He needs to know the adults can stop danger without becoming it in front of him. Men like Sardo do not stop because we ask kindly. Then do not ask kindly. But do not turn me into the reason you forget the line. That struck him. You think there's a line in my world? I think you're trying to draw one because your son is watching. Raphael looked toward the windows, where Nico was outside with a therapist, pushing the toy ambulance along the stone path while the winter sun flashed on its cracked plastic roof. The rehabilitation center opens in 9 days, Mateo said quietly. Sarto will attend. Calder's people will watch. If he thinks Mara remembers him, he may move first. Good, Mara said. Both men looked at her. No, Raphael said. You do not know what I am suggesting. You are suggesting bait. I am suggesting a table, a microphone, and a room full of donors who love public goodness so much they panic when it becomes specific. Mateo's expression brightened with professional interest. Raphael's did not. You are still healing. I can sit. You will not put yourself in the center of this. I already am. Because I failed to keep you out. Because I chose to protect Nico. His jaw tightened. I will not use you. Mara softened. Then don't. Stand beside me and let me speak. Raphael looked at her as if that was the more dangerous thing. Maybe it was. The St. Aurelia Children's Rehabilitation Center opened on a cold, bright afternoon with cameras, donors, ribbon, and too many white flowers. It was Raphael's gift to the hospital, announced months before the hallway attack. A full therapy floor for children who needed to relearn movement, speech, breath balance. She arrived in a tailor navy dress and used a cane instead of a wheelchair. Raphael argued until Mara pointed out that the chair made her feel displayed and the cane made her feel armed. The black ring was on her finger again. In public, the wall still had use. But before she stepped out of the car, Raphael took her hand. Will you wear it today? He asked, though it was already there. Mara looked at their joined hands. You're checking the door? Yes. It is open. His thumb moved once over her knuckles. Nico leaned forward from the other seat, his toy ambulance in his lap. Does open mean not trapped? Mara smiled at him. Exactly. He nodded, satisfied. Then I like doors. Raphael closed his eyes for half a second. Outside, cameras flashed. Vincent Sarto waited near the entrance in a charcoal suit, silver hair brushed back, smile polished to a civic shine. His shoes were glossy black. Mara felt Raphael notice at the same time she did. His hand tightened. She squeezed back once. Not warning. Not comfort. Reminder. Line. The ceremony began with speeches. The hospital president thanked the foundation. A board chair thanked the donors. A donor thanked another donor for thanking the board. Children demonstrated therapy equipment, while adults made soft noises that had more to do with cameras than children. Mara sat in the front row between Nico and Raphael. She could feel people looking at her. The cafeteria worker who had become Raphael Vitali's wife in a sentence. The woman in the hallway. The one who had bled into the expensive floor. Some faces held pity. Some held curiosity. Some held calculation. Nico's small hand found hers during the second speech. Too many words, he whispered. Donors run on them. He nodded solemnly. Raphael leaned slightly toward them. I heard that. Good, Mara whispered. Improve your speech. His mouth moved. Vincent Sarto watched from across the aisle. When Raphael stepped to the podium, the room quieted in the way rooms did for him. Fear, respect, money myth. All of it folded into silence. He looked at the prepared remarks. Then he set them aside. Mara's chest tightened. My son learned to press a call bell this month, Raphael said. The room shifted, confused by the smallness of the statement. For many of you, that means nothing. For him, it meant asking for help. For me, it meant learning that help cannot always arrive as an order. Nico stared at his father. Mara did not move. Raphael's eyes found her once, then returned to the crowd. This center exists because children deserve more than survival. They deserve patience. They deserve dignity. They deserve adults who do not confuse silence with strength. Something in Mara's throat hurt. Raphael Vitali, who never asked, had just told a room full of the city's richest people that he had been wrong. It was more intimate than any kiss. Applause rose slowly, then stronger. Then Vincent Sarto stood. He clapped with both hands, smiling as if the whole scene belonged to him too. Beautiful words, Raphael, he said loudly. And how fortunate that tragedy gave us such a moving symbol. The room cooled. Raphael's face did not change, but Mara felt the air sharpen around him. Sarto turned toward her. Mrs. Vitali, you honor us by appearing. It must be overwhelming coming from the service corridors to the front row. There it was, not an attack with a weapon. Worse for a room like this. An invitation for everyone to remember where she belonged. Mara saw Nico's cheeks flush. Raphael stepped away from the podium. Mara touched his sleeve. He stopped. She rose carefully with the cane. Pain pulled at her side. The room wavered for 1 second, then settled. Raphael did not help her until she looked at him and nodded. Then he offered his arm, not as a handler, but as a choice. She took it and walked to the podium. The microphones waited like small blackbirds. Mara looked out at the donors, trustees, cameras, staff she recognized from the kitchen, nurses who had watched her learn to stand again, and Vincent Sarto with his bright, clean smile. Mr. Sarto is right about one thing, she said. I came from the service corridors. The room held its breath. That is why I know which doors are real. Sarto's smile thinned. Mara placed one hand on the podium. Raphael stood beside her, silent. On the night of the attack, my meal cart was rerouted from the North Service elevator to the East Family Corridor. That change did not come from a kitchen. The kitchen production sheet said roasted red pepper soup. The altered donor route listed tomato basil. It used donor menu language, not staff language. The hospital president's face drained of color. Matteo moved near the back wall, speaking softly into his phone. The allergy strip on Nico Vitali's pasta was folded from a sample sheet. Kitchen allergy labels print with a notch. The fall strip delayed the meal and pushed the cart toward the donor staging area. Sarto laughed once too light. This is a touching story, but perhaps not the place for kitchen gossip. Mara looked at him. I agree. Children should not have their safety reduced to gossip. Applause flickered from the staff side of the room and died quickly. Mara continued. The man who approached Nico wore gray scrubs with polished black dress shoes. I remembered the shoes because hospital workers do not wear mirrors on their feet. Earlier that evening, I saw the same shine beside the medication alcove before the runner appeared. Sarto's expression changed by the smallest degree. Raphael saw it. So did Matteo. Board members that night wore gold wristbands, Mara said. Family suite temporary access was blue. Mr. Sarto, when you came to the East Corridor before the attack, your wristband was blue. A low sound moved through the room. Sarto's smile vanished. You were half dead on the floor. Not yet. Nico made a small sound from the front row. Mara did not look at him because if she did, she might not finish. You signed into the family access system at 6:41 p.m., she said. You told the volunteer desk you were delivering a donor gift to the child lounge. The gift was never logged. The access camera outside the East Corridor went dark 3 minutes later. But the therapy room camera reflected the hall in the glass of a framed poster. This was Matteo's part. Mara had seen the reflection after he found it. Grainy, partial enough. Matteo lifted a tablet at the back of the room. On the screen, Sarto's profile appeared in the reflected glass, his hand on the security panel, his blue wristband bright against his cuff. The room broke open. Not loudly. Rooms full of rich people did not gasp like theater crowds. They whispered, shifted, calculated distance. Phones came out. The hospital president stepped away from Sarto, as if betrayal were contagious. Sarto looked at Raphael. For the first time, fear cut through the polish. You would take the word of the cafeteria girl over mine. Raphael's voice was quiet. I would take her silence over your oath. Sarto backed up. Security moved before Raphael could. Not Raphael's men alone. Hospital security. Foundation security. People who now understood that the safer side of the room was not Sarto's. Sarto pointed at Mara. She is nothing. Nico stood on his chair. She is not nothing, he shouted. Every adult froze. The boy clutched his ambulance to his chest, shaking but upright. She brought me back. Mara's eyes burned. Raphael moved first, not toward Sarto but toward his son. He lifted Nico down gently and knelt in front of him in full view of the room. You were brave, he said. Nico shook his head. I was scared. Raphael touched his son's cheek. Then you were brave and scared. The room watched a mafia boss kneel at a child's feet and finally get the sentence right. Sarto was taken out through the side corridor, shouting about favors, money, names that no longer had enough weight to hold him up. Matteo followed with 2 men, calm as winter. Mara leaned heavily on the podium. Raphael returned to her at once. Sit. Ask better. His eyes flashed with fear and admiration. Will you sit before you fall and make me look incompetent in front of donors? Much better. She let him guide her back to the chair. Nico climbed into the seat beside her, toy ambulance between them. You did not stand like a queen, he whispered. Mara blinked. What? In stories, queens stand. She looked at Raphael, who looked as confused as she felt. Nico patted her hand. You sat and still made everyone quiet. Mara laughed then, a small careful laugh that hurt and healed at the same time. That is because sitting is underrated. Raphael sat on her other side. Noted, he said. The aftermath did not become clean overnight. Real danger rarely did. Sardo's accounts led to Calder money, false contracts, security bribes, and a dozen men who suddenly remembered urgent travel plans. Raphael handled it with Matteo in rooms Mara did not enter. When she asked whether he had kept the line, he answered directly, yes. She believed him because he looked irritated by the restraint, not proud of it. Mara's body healed slower than gossip. Some mornings she woke furious at pain. Some nights she still heard the tray hit the floor, and Nico heard it too. One night, 3 weeks after the opening, Mara found him at the small table near the stove with the toy ambulance and 2 spoons. Emergency pudding? She asked. He nodded. She lowered herself carefully into the chair. Papa had a bad dream, Nico said. Mara stilled. Did he? He walked outside. Through the window, she saw Raphael on the terrace, coat open against the cold, one hand braced on the stone rail. Did he tell you to go back to bed? No. He asked if I wanted Matteo to sit with me. Mara smiled faintly. Progress. Nico pushed 1 spoon toward her. Do grown-ups get brought back too? Mara looked at the small, battered ambulance. Yes. Sometimes, Mara said, looking through the glass at Raphael alone under the winter stars. Another grown-up. A child. A very stubborn toy. Nico considered this. Sometimes pasta? Absolutely sometimes pasta. He seemed satisfied. Mara took a blanket from the chair. Watched from the warm side of the glass. She stepped onto the terrace. The cold hit her first, then Raphael's attention. He turned instantly. You should be inside. You should be asleep. I was. Badly. He looked away. Mara came to stand beside him, draping the blanket over the rail between them, because handing it directly to him would make him refuse out of reflex. After a moment, he picked it up. I dreamed I was too late, he said. The admission cost him. She could hear it. In the hallway. Everywhere. Mara rested her elbows on the rail. You were not too late. I was closer. That is not comfort, but it is truth. He looked at her then, and the cold seemed less important. I am in love with you, he said. No warning. No poetry. No command. Mara's breath caught. Raphael did not step closer. I'm telling you because it is true, he said. Not because I expect you to answer tonight. Not because you owe me anything. Not because the ring made a story in public, and I want to trap you inside it. Her fingers tightened on the rail. What do you want? To ask. Ask what? If I may win my own wife properly. Despite everything, Mara laughed. It came out shaky. I'm not your wife. Not in the way people mean when they choose forever, he said, quoting her back with devastating precision. So, I'm asking if I may begin there. Inside, Nico pressed his face to the glass, then quickly pretended to be looking at a plant when Mara glanced over. You are terrible at normal, she said. I have staff for many things. Normal is not one of them. No staff for this. No buying my yes. No turning every disagreement into security protocol. I will work on that, he said. Is that permission? Mara looked at the garden, the house, the man beside her, and the child watching badly from the warm side of the glass. It is not forever, she said. Raphael nodded once. It is dinner, she said. You can ask me to dinner. Mara Ellis. Will you have dinner with me? Where? Anywhere you choose. The medical wing kitchen. Pasta. Extra butter. No green ambush. His mouth curved. You learn fast. He offered his arm, and this time there was no audience, no cameras, no need for a wall. Mara took it because she wanted to, and they walked inside together. Nico stood too quickly by the table, trying to look innocent. I did not watch, he announced. Terrible spy, Raphael said. I am 6. That is your strongest defense. Mara sat at the kitchen table while Raphael opened cabinets with the grim focus of a man entering hostile territory. Nico instructed him from a chair. The pasta stuck once, and it was still the most beautiful dinner Mara had ever had. Later, when Nico fell asleep with his head on Raphael's thigh and the toy ambulance tucked under one arm, Raphael reached across the table. He did not take Mara's hand. He placed his palm open between them. An offer, not a claim. Mara put her hand in his. The black ring was not on her finger that night. It sat on the windowsill beside Nico's ambulance, two symbols of rescue catching the low kitchen light. He said something earlier, Raphael said. Nico, he said, Mama brings people back. Mara went very still. Raphael's thumb stilled too. I told him that was your word to accept or refuse, he said. That love does not become true because someone hungry says it first. Mara's eyes burned. What did he say? He said he would wait, but the ambulance already voted. A laugh broke through her tears. Raphael watched her with an expression so open it made her ache. And you? She asked softly. I will wait too. The ambulance is pushy. It has survived much. Mara looked at the sleeping boy, the man who was learning that safety could mean asking, and a meal that had become a prayer on a table between them. I do not know how to be a mother, she said. I do not know how to be this kind of father, Raphael answered. Then we are underqualified. Completely. But Nico wants us. That undid her more than any promise. Mara lifted Raphael's hand and pressed her lips to his knuckles. Ask me again, she whispered. His breath caught. Come home with us, Raphael said. She looked around the kitchen, at the sleeping child, at the black ring waiting without demand. I think I already did. Raphael closed his eyes. When he opened them, the dangerous man was still there. Mara did not want to lie. She wanted the truth with doors in it. He stood, came around the table, and knelt beside her chair. Not because cameras waited. Not because doctors needed a relationship. Not because fear had forced a word from him. Because this time, he was asking from the floor by choice. Mara Ellis, he said, will you let me spend the rest of my life learning how to love you without locking the door? Her answer came through tears. Yes. The toy ambulance fell from Nico's arms and rolled under the table, siren button squeaking once against the floor. Nico woke with a gasp. Emergency. Mara laughed and pulled him in her good side. No emergency. Raphael wrapped one arm around both of them, careful of every healing place. Nico yawned against her shoulder. Ambulance was right. About what? Raphael asked. Mama brings people back. This time, Mara did not correct him. She kissed the top of his dark hair. Only if they want to come home. Raphael's arm tightened, not like a cage, but like shelter. We do, he said.